viewers, and welcome to the Orange Hub podcast, proudly brought to you by Say What and supported by Education Out Loud. My beautiful name is Panashish Batamoto, also known as The Dynamite, and it's always a good time. I will emphasize this over and over again. It's always a good time when I get to be on your screens and we discuss issues that are affecting us, not just as young people, but affecting the nation at large, globally, within the region, cascading into the nation that is in Zimbabwe. So remember, this is the Global Action Week on Education, where we're running under the theme Education Saves Lives, Protect Education in Emergencies. And I'm usually not alone. I don't like being alone at all. Joining me today is a think tank, somebody that has like all the answers that you guys need in relation to education. And it's such an honor to have you today. So I'd like you to introduce yourself to the viewers, and you tell them your name just to make it fun. You also tell us what you're well known for, that mark, that special something that makes people say, this is Mr. Ndoro.
Thank you so much, Panashe. My beautiful name is Taungana Ndoro. I'm the Director of Communications and Advocacy in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. I'm well known for being very responsive to any issues within the education sector. So anything that happens in the education sector, we're on it just like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a pleasure to have you, Mr. Ndoro. And today we're going to talk about education in emergencies. And if we are to look around, Zimbabwe has been affected by so many natural occurrences such as drought. We can talk about even the cyclones, the floods, and even COVID-19 as well. And it is very key that we have emergency structures that are put in place to ensure that we are protected, education is protected amidst such emergencies. So I would like to know, what is the role of the ministry in ensuring that there are strategies that are put in place for education in emergencies?
Well, the ministry is the authority for all educational institutions in the country that offer primary or secondary education. And we have quite a number of strategies and initiatives that we've put in place to ensure that whenever an emergency comes through, we're ready to handle it. And education does not stop, learning does not stop, it continues. We leave no one and no place behind in spite of any emergencies. We could talk of the emergencies that have to do with the floods, for instance. We work as the whole of government in terms of construction of bridges, construction of schools that are accessible, construction of roads that are accessible. We did have Cyclone Idai, but you saw that the government put all its hands on deck and managed to make sure that our pupils survived the effects of Cyclone Idai. Schools were constructed. Only last year, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa, commissioned at least 17 state-of-the-art schools in rural areas, very remote and rural areas, which are mostly affected by these natural emergencies such as drought and floods. Those schools are top of the range schools, such that you find flash systems in those schools, you find electricity, you find Wi-Fi. It's really a school that can fit to be in any urban area, but they're in very deep rural areas. And the teachers who are at those schools have got no wish whatsoever of transferring, because they've got all the facilities, all the modern facilities at those schools. So that is one other measure that we have taken in terms of making sure that we curb the issues to do with emergencies. Also the other emergency of drought, for instance, you find that the government has got a very robust school feeding program, and which is spread throughout the entire country. The government provides grain, provides cooking oil, provides relish to 11,500 schools across the country. And this is to ensure that our children are able to come to school motivated, that at least they are assured of one hot meal per day at the school. So you see, there are some children who walk very long distances. So when they get to the school, they are at least assured that around 10 o'clock, we're going to be having sadza with beans or with chunks, and it's a good meal. You know, for some of these children, they would have gone to bed on an empty stomach. And some of these children, when they wake up, there's nothing to eat within their homes. But that motivation that when I get to school, I'm going to be assured of a hot meal, hot sadza, there will be relish, whether it's vegetables. And we have put in place a strategy to now call it a homegrown school feeding program, where we involve members of the community and say, if the relish or the grain that the government has provided has run out, you should come together as a community or as parents of the children who are at that school to chip in, bring relish, bring maize meal. And then we've got parents who are on a rotational basis providing labor, those who cook, those who wash the plates, those that keep the children in line and in check, and those that dish and serve. And they do it on a rotational basis. Then we have parents who say, I'm not able to provide the labor that is on a rotational basis, but what I can provide is grain. I've got grain because I had a good harvest this season, so I'll provide 250 kgs to supplement what you already have. Or someone may say, I don't have grain and I don't have the time to come and do labor, but what I have is money. I've got some money which I can give you. Here is my money, and then you can contribute towards the school feeding program. And it becomes homegrown. We've got community leaders who are involved. We've got members of parliament involved. We've got councillors involved. So it is really a homegrown strategy that has curbed these emergencies, particularly those that have to do with drought. Moving on to other emergencies such as pandemics or emergencies that have to do with communicable diseases. And when I'm talking of communicable diseases, I'm talking of those that can be transmitted from one person to the other. We're talking of COVID-19, for instance. We're talking of cholera. We're talking of typhoid. We're talking of any influenzas. This is where we then put in place what we call standard operating procedures for the prevention and management of any communicable diseases within our schools. This is part of our strategy. This is where you get to a school, and before you even enter the school, there's a wash bay, there's a high hand sanitizer. The security guard is ensuring that there is social distancing. When you get to the reception, social distancing is also administered. The sanitizers are all over the place. We've got the wash bays all over the place, wash buckets all over the place. You go to the abolition facilities, there are water bays inside and outside. So we are maintaining high levels of hygiene within our schools. And this is why you have seen that within our schools, we're not really victims of issues to do with COVID, typhoid, cholera, or bed bugs, the tsikidzis that you're talking about, that have recently affected certain parts of the country. In our schools, you won't see that because we've got very high standard operating procedures when you get to a school. There's so much hygiene and sanitation within the schools. So we're ready as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Any emergencies that may occur, be it drought, be it floods, be it health or pandemics, we are ready for that. On top of that, we also capacitate our head of schools and our teachers in disaster risk management. And when we talk of disaster risk management, we're talking of them having drills. There are other disasters such as wind, which can blow off the roof of a school or and then damage school buildings and also injure anybody who may be in the way of the winds. So we have drills at the schools. We have an alarm, we have a siren, or we have a bell that is rang in a different manner. And every child and staff member assembles at an assembly point, and then the drill goes on that this is what we have to do. Let us walk in an orderly manner because there is a disaster. There is a veiled fire which is coming towards the school. There are other disasters that are there that have to do with perhaps human-wildlife conflict, where the school may be in an area where there are wild animals. They could be hyenas, they could be lions, they could be any wildlife that may conflict with our children. We have a lot of drills for those children so that their safety is guaranteed and that they are in safe learning environments within our schools. So we are prepared, and the disaster risk management is conducted systematically every single term that our schools are open to ensure that we guard against any casualties that may befall our schools. So we're very proud as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education that with at least 5 million pupils across the country, we have not had any deaths due to emergencies, at least for the last 3-4 years. We lost 1 or 2 children to the COVID-19 pandemic, but short of that, our schools are safe havens.
And I think you could go on and on.
I could, yeah.
All right. I'd like to applaud the milestones that have been taken by the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education to safeguard education in emergencies. That are the strategies and the mechanisms that you've just mentioned. Let's talk about the real issues, the real impact, what we are seeing on the ground amidst these natural disaster occurrences. What is happening on the ground when we have this cyclone eyes, when we have this drought? What really is happening on the ground?
Okay, what happens on the ground is, for instance, let's talk of the school feeding program, right? To alleviate the issues to do with drought and poor harvests. A child wakes up motivated to go to school because there's food at the school, which is a strategy that the ministry has put in place. A child is motivated to go to school, does not need a whip to be driven to school. And when they get to school, they are not just going to be sitting in the classroom staring blankly at the chalkboard. They are listening attentively because they are not hungry, because they have had a meal. So they are more attentive when they are in our classroom. So this is what is actually happening on the ground. On the ground, when you get to our schools, you do not just get in without clearance from the security at the gate or making sure that you have sanitized yourself on the ground. Wherever you go, there's a lot of information, communication, and education material that is talking about cleanliness, next to godliness, issues to do with hygiene, directions to the abolition facilities, and it's always in an orderly manner. Then when you look at issues to do with the cyclones that destroy our schools, I mean, we have got various schools that have been built and constructed, which were destroyed by the cyclones. If you go to Chimanimani, for instance, you think it's a brand new city, it's a brand new town, because everything in Chimanimani is almost new, especially the schools. The schools that are in Chimanimani are newly built to replace those that were destroyed by Cyclone Idai. So we're proud of what is happening on the ground. We've got new infrastructure, and infrastructure that is modern, infrastructure where we have now got smart boards rather than chalkboards, infrastructure where we've got Wi-Fi, infrastructure where we have got double doors within our classrooms, infrastructure where we've got Wi-Fi, internet, infrastructure where we've got tablets for our pupils. So it's exciting.
Just hold you there. I love the fact that you referred to the cyclone Idai, because I think it's something that we all can relate to. I love the fact that you said right now we have schools that are as good as new, that are new actually, that have been built in Chimanimani. What happens when we have this disaster and we don't have, there's no time for us to build the schools there and then, but we need to ensure that education is provided for children within that area. So what role does the ministry take when we have such a natural disasters? What is the solution that you proffer in such circumstances?
Our immediate response to circumstances where a school has been destroyed, and definitely if we need to build a school, it may take us upwards of 3 months. So during that time, our policy is to ensure that we've got schools primary schools are constructed within a radius of 5 kilometers of the other school. And if it's a secondary school, it's within a radius of 10 kilometers of the other school. So what we do when there's an emergency like that, and other pupils are disadvantaged and because their school has been destroyed, the next school becomes their haven. It becomes their educational center up until the school that was destroyed has been built again. So we then make arrangements, including transport arrangements, to make sure that those pupils who are going to school A, which was destroyed by a cyclone or a hurricane, are now going to attend school for the next 3 months at school B. It happened when for instance, in Kwekwe, if you remember, a year or two ago, when one of the schools, Golden Phoenix, collapsed due to artisanal mining, which was happening underneath the school, and the school collapsed and went under. We took those pupils and then we transferred them to the closest school, and they continued with their education from there as the Golden Phoenix School was now being reconstructed again on firmer ground. Now the Golden Phoenix School has been reconstructed by the Ministry of Local Government. As I said, we work as the whole of government, and it was handed back to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Those pupils have now been taken back to Golden Phoenix, which is a brand new school now.
Okay. So, you know, one thing that I'm so much interested about is we do not just commemorate the Global Action Week on Education online, but it also cascades into physical commemorations that are happening in Manicaland. So tell us, how is the ministry prepared for this event, and how is it going to be like? Because we need to have a picture of what is going to be happening.
Well, the event is going to be very, very exciting. The Global Action Week is for education is going to be commemorated at Rutsate Primary School in Mutasa District in Manicaland Province. That is close to, you know, Hauna, if you know Hauna, which is in Mutasa. But actually, it's further than schools such as St. Columbus, almost towards the border with Mozambique. One of our P3 schools. So it's going to be very exciting because we have got the Honorable Deputy Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Honorable Angeline Gata, who's going to be our guest of honor, and she's going to be talking about these emergencies and the strategies that the ministry has put in place. And we're going to have a lot of partners that are going to be there advocating for education, advocating for the continuation of education during emergencies, advocating for the continuation of education for girls in particular, those who are out of school and those who are finding it difficult even when they are in school. We'll be having an expo and exhibitions of various partners at the school, and we'll also be showcasing what Rutsate has in terms of ICT materials and in terms of e-learning. So it is really going to be an exciting day, and the schools around Mutasa district will all converge at Rutsate Primary. So we'll have a lot of heads of schools, even from Manicaland. We'll have all the district schools inspectors from Manicaland at Rutsate. We'll have our provincial education directors from across the country, and we'll have members of the head office directorate also at Rutsate. It's going to be a very exciting day, and we envisage that by the time we leave Rutsate, it will be a very changed school with modern infrastructure, or pledges of modern infrastructure, or pledges of laboratories and science kits to assist our children to receive the quality education which is their constitutional right.
Beautiful. I love how you incorporated gender as you were going through what's going to be happening on the day. And I'd like for you maybe to tackle and elaborate more on how we can ensure that we have a gender-responsive approach for education in emergencies.
Thank you very much, Panache, for that. You'll notice that riding on the Education Amendment Act of 2020, which is now made it law that we can admit a pregnant girl into formal school and even admit her into formal school after giving birth, so that the girl is not left behind, so that she is able to contribute to the socio-economic transformation of Zimbabwe. So that piece of legislation helps us to create this gender inclusivity, to ensure that we don't leave any girls behind. Previously, when a girl would fall pregnant, it would automatically mean that she's no longer in the formal schooling environment. But now the law supports us to implement the policy that the girl can still continue with her education. Please be mindful that that piece of legislation does not encourage that girls should fall pregnant whilst they're still in school or whilst they're still underage. It just protects them when that circumstance has happened. But it is always our clarion call as the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education that girls should wait for the right time to indulge in sex, to indulge in marriage. The time is coming when they are older, perhaps somewhere in their 20s, then they can be able to indulge in those activities. Whilst they are at school, we expect them to learn as much as they can so that they can shape their future. But we have had circumstances where, unfortunately and regrettably, some of our girl children fall pregnant. Some of them are then forced into marriage. And therefore, we now follow up these girls, even those who have been married. Please come back to school. We talk to the husbands and we tell them the advantages of making sure that their wives complete their education, because it then assists them in future. There are others, obviously, for cultural reasons, who may not want to come back to school. We've got other programs that we're working with our partners, World Vision, our partners, Plan International. Plan International actually has got a surge program where we go and provide non-formal education for these girls or these young mothers, so that they are into textile design and technology. They're able to sew and sell their goods, whether it's beads. Others are into catering and this food technology and design. They're able to prepare meals and even now have restaurants which they run to support themselves and their families. Then we've got others who are into hairdressing and saloon, so it is helping all these young girls. Those are the ones that would, for one reason or another, not be able to come back into the formal education. But the policy is now very open for all girls to come back into formal education, whether they are pregnant or they are young mothers and they're suckling mothers. We still have a haven for them and a program for them where they can even be given time to go and breastfeed their child and come back into the class, and we don't leave them behind. So we're all-inclusive, particularly on the gender side now.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ndoro, for that. Remember, we are rallying behind the theme, Education Saves Lives, Protecting Education in Emergencies. And I would like to talk about how when we have such natural disasters, there is havoc and sometimes there is confusion within the communities. How are you ensuring that communities remain resilient amidst such natural occurrences?
We, as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, continuously engage with our communities. And our representative within each and every school as the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education is the head of the school, who, when they have parents' meetings, these are some of the things that are top of the agenda. The issue of avoiding these natural disasters, particularly the beginning of this year, we had cases to do with flooded rivers and children attempting to cross flooded rivers. Unfortunately, we lost a few of our children due to these sort of disasters about trying to cross flooded rivers or flooded streams. So we have called parents to schools and told them that if it starts to rain and the children are in school, we may hold them at the school until the rain subsides. Or even hold them at the school until the next day, because we know that even if the rain has subsided, the river is still flooded. If they try to go, they may be taken by the flooded river. These are proactive actions to ensure that we save a life during such an emergency. By the same token, we then appeal to parents that if they wake up in the morning and it's raining cats and dogs, and they know that Nyatande River is going to be flooded, they should not release their children to come to school, because we want to save a life because of the emergency that is there. What good is it going to be for us to try and provide quality education if the life of the person that we want to give that quality education is no longer there due to these floodings? So we engage continuously with our parents. We have got issues of disasters in terms of, this may not be natural, but even just walking in the road, there are children who walk in the highway. It's a risk. This is a disaster risk. There could be an accident, there could be a reckless driver, and you are walking by the side of the road. You remember there was a case somewhere in Mount Darwin where five pupils also lost their lives because a reckless driver mowed them down, all 5 of them. So these are the issues that we then tell our parents to guard against, having children walk in the road or not be alert to any disasters that may be around them. This could be disasters to do with reckless drivers. This could be disasters to do with wildlife. If you have heard of a roaming hyena, particularly in Buera, roaming hyenas in Buera district, make sure that your children are either escorted to school by an adult or picked up from school by an adult as well, to ensure that they do not encounter that conflict. So the main idea here is to ensure that we save this life. Why are we saving this life? To ensure that we provide it with quality education. Why are we providing this child with quality education? To ensure that this child contributes positively towards Vision 2030 of a prosperous and empowered middle-income economy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I think it's very important that we continuously have such dialogues so that we sensitize the communities. Mr. Ndoro, what would be your parting words to the people that are listening to you right now? Remember, we are talking about the Global Action Week on Education.
Thank you. Our parting words will be an invitation to all that can make it to Rutate Primary School on Friday, the 30th of May. Please come, mingle with others, find out about the ideas that we have in education to save the girl child. Come through, listen for yourselves, and enjoy. I'm particularly calling on all schools within surrounding districts of Mutasa, such as Makoni District. We are talking of Nyanga District. We are talking of Mutare District. Please, all the schools around those districts, it's closer for you to come to Mutasa District and join us in the pomp and fanfare at Rutate Primary on the 30th of May. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Do I have a seat in your car?
Oh, yes, sure, you do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndoro, for coming through. And thank you so much, viewers, for keeping up with this conversation and just being engaged. Please do make sure that you leave your comments and tell us what you think about protecting education in terms of emergencies here in Zimbabwe. So my beautiful name is Panashichi Batamoto, as I've already introduced myself, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Remember, you can get in touch with us through our 577 toll-free number for psychosocial support, SRHR solutions, and child protection services. From me, the Dynamite, and the crew behind the scenes. See you next time.